All right. I am Marwan Cameron, and this is the Conduit. It is 1 p.m. in Kitsap County, 51 degrees. Yesterday, we were dealing with the tornado, hail, all kinds of craziness. We don't get tornadoes in the Pacific Northwest, do we? I guess we do. We had one 3 years ago. So, climate change, what you going to do? But today, I got a really special show. I'm super excited. Man, can't tell you how much. But as you know, the Conduit, we started in February. Shout out to Stephanie for creating the Conduit C up there in the background. As you see, the studio continuously upgrades and changes. But the Conduit wouldn't exist without G2. Well, you know what? G2 wouldn't exist without Erica Noel Duncan and her organization, her consulting. And when I decided, I'm going to go ahead and do this thing. And you hear me say all the time, power is taken, not given. Dare to try to do something and change your piece of the world. Doesn't matter if you fail. I don't lose. I only learn. So either I win or I learn, but I don't lose. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and create this thing. I want to help people. I want to do more than what I'm able to do at the college. But I also know that I need help. And so I have good people that are around me locally, but I needed to reach out and get the best of the best to help me to launch this thing and ensure that it is going to be sustainable as we go forward. And I can give that credit to Erica and her team, especially when you consider how many organizations went down during the initial hit of COVID, right? We can talk all day about for-profit organizations, but nonprofits, it's really hard, right? Because you rely on the charity of others in order for you to thrive and keep going. So she helped us build something that could sustain a pandemic. Well, that is, drop the mic right there. You guys can't see her. She's in the green screen, but she's blushing right now. But I'm gonna go ahead and bring her and Colleen on. How are the two of you today?
I'm good. I am blushing. I'm a Black girl who can blush because I just thank you, Marwan. I love working with you. So thank you for that introduction.
So, I wanted to make this more conversational. You are Erica, as your name states, and below is Colleen. And so I'll just ask you some questions and you'll answer them. And I might jump in and interrupt you because I want to get to know a little bit more about you, or, the audience might want to know a little bit more. So I'll kind of jump in there and ask that. But where should we start? Let's start with who you are, right? Well, first off, you're in Spain. So what time is it in Spain right now?
So it is 10:05 p.m. in Spain.
Colleen, where are you?
I'm in New Jersey, so it's 4 p.m. in New Jersey.
So this is like globalization at work, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
Erica,
tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so hello everyone. I'm a bit shy, I guess. This is my first official podcast, but my name is Erica Noel Duncan. I am a nonprofit strategist, consultant, and coach. So for 16 plus years, I've been working with nonprofits on a variety of different things, from startup to fundraising development to strategic planning, just really supporting nonprofits and helping them grow. I started that as a lawyer. I'm a graduate of NYU Law School and fell into the nonprofit world pretty quickly. I was a tax lawyer, and nonprofits and tax law, actually, they do kind of go together. So that's how I got my start. And so when I was a lawyer in New York, began to just take on nonprofit clients and really help them with their building, joined several boards, even went abroad for a while to help a nonprofit with some of its programming and services. So yeah, I think I kind of fell into it and then just kind of fell in love with it. And so many years later, worked for a couple of law firms and went to a consulting firm in London. That's how I got to this side of the world, but was still doing a lot of nonprofit work. And then decided in 2013, like, hey, maybe I can start my own firm and do things, the way that I want to do them and serve clients in a way that I want to serve them instead of being as, part of a larger organization trying to cultivate, serving nonprofits.
Was that
So
scary?
was that scary? Yes, it was scary. And it was also like my family thought I was having a nervous breakdown because I was like, I think I'm just gonna quit. After having this, storied career and doing so well and being in London and traveling around the world doing consulting and being a lawyer and all of that, kind of me branching out on my own. It was scary for me, but it was also very scary for my family because they were like, what are you doing? And can this work? And will this work? But I will say that personally, it was really good because I met my now husband around that time who, he's Spanish. That's why I live in Spain. And I just kind of opened up a life for myself that wasn't so tied to the corporate, this is what you have to do. It was more I could craft a life and a career that I think just suited me better. So I'm happy, and my family is also very happy,
Well, let me ask you
8
something.
years later, they're like, okay, Erica, you made the right decisions.
Well, let me ask you something, right? For business owners, entrepreneurs, a lot of times family and friends kind of look at them like, are you really sure you want to do this? I mean, you're NYU, graduate, you're an attorney. And it's like, wait a minute, you're probably making well into the six figures. Why would you venture off and do something so risky when you can, keep doing, what you're doing? So what kind of advice, would you give to folks that are thinking, man, can I do this? Should I do this?
Yeah, so I would say, and Colleen, you can definitely jump in here if you have advice, but like I will say, like when I called my dad, I was like, I'm gonna quit. I think I'm gonna quit. And he booked a plane to London like the next day. He was like in London a few days later to literally like talk me out of it. And I had to just kind of calmly explain, I've been doing this for a while and I just really feel as if I want to do things on my own. So I think you have to just kind of feel it in a way that even if those who love you the most are like, you're losing your mind, there's something inside that says, but I need to do this, And so it's that inner intuition, that inner fuel, that inner fire, that inner passion that really does not only get you through the doubts of, those who love you, but also the challenges. Because also when you decide to take that move, you have this idea, everything's going to be great. I'm going to be a millionaire. It's going to be wonderful. And it doesn't always go that way. Things happen. And it's that inner fire, that inner something that I wish I could put a name to it that really has gotten me to this place. Believing the vision, the mission. It's something that is so uniquely yours that even explaining it to someone, you can't capture it. And if you feel that, that's what you trust in, and believe me, I have trusted in that. And I've relied on that so much, in the past 8 years.
Well, you already know that you've got a lot of fans. Stephanie Dent says, hello, you are amazing ladies to work with. Ernest says, you all rock. And Anthony says, yeah.
Hi, Anthony.
So Colleen, jump in there. Tell us a little bit about, yourself. Who were you? And, how did you get connected with Erica?
Yeah. So, gosh, I feel like Eric and I talk about this, that our lives have like almost crossed so many times until they finally did. So like, for example, when she was at NYU, she was living in the town that I currently live in now. We didn't overlap then, but we have all these funny little shared moments where I'm like, we were destined to find each other at some point. I started my career as a teacher. So I was a high school and middle school English teacher for a few years, actually in South Africa. So I was living there after college for a couple years. And when I came back to the US, I was pretty sure I didn't want to be a teacher, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I found a job working in a development department doing some fundraising for a school in New York City, a private school in Harlem. And so that was where I sort of got started in the nonprofit world. And that was where I first learned about fundraising and development. And, like many nonprofits, you never just wear one hat. So you learn very quickly how to manage volunteers and plan events and, do fundraising, but also, help with programming. And so I started to get a feel pretty quickly for the nonprofit space and really enjoyed it. And so I worked for 3 different nonprofits in the New Jersey, New York City area for about 7 years. And about, I guess it was this spring, had been with my most recent organization for about 3 years and was sort of ready to move on and do something different. And I didn't know if that was just with another organization or something new entirely. And kind of by chance came across a post that Erica had posted about looking for help with her consulting firm. Consulting was something I had thought about a number of times in the past, but was not feeling quite so brave to take the jump by myself at this point in my career. I probably could have found a way to scrap it together on my own, but the idea of getting to work with somebody who'd been in this space for a while, who had some expertise, was certainly more appealing than trying to figure this out by myself. And so Erica and I connected in the spring and hit it off. And so I joined her firm in the spring. And so this has been sort of my first go at consulting for nonprofits. And it's been really neat to be sort of still working very much, as you know, Marwan, with the organizations and feeling on the ground in some ways, but certainly in more of an advising capacity. And so getting to use a lot of the information and kind of experiences I gained while working for nonprofits in a different role now, and getting to learn so much from Erica, who's been in this space for so long. And she's just always so gracious and generous with her tools and her skills and everything she's learned. It's been, I have been very fortunate that I've had, kind of her umbrella to be under while I started this. So many people who do want to get into consulting do have to make that leap of, being completely on their own. And so I've been very fortunate to not have that experience, but I've loved it. It's been such a joy. We have the most amazing clients. So obviously G2 and Marwan and Stephanie and everyone, over in Kitsap County, we love the people we get to work with. And, we just get to work with so many passionate people. So it's been a really cool, different way to work in the nonprofit space.
Yeah, I appreciate that for sure. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, Eric. I'm going to give you a chance to think about it while I set this up. But, I want you to reflect on, how we met. And I like to teach all the time, right? I believe in teachable moments. And, that means if I have to use myself as the teachable object, either good or bad, then I can do so. So, when when we came to you and you said, okay, we'll work with you. Think about one, how did we meet and how did we get going? But 2, what were, 1 or 2 things that you saw that said, you know what, I can do something with this organization. These are their potential strengths. And then also talk about what were some of my weaknesses? What are some of the challenges when you're looking at, okay, I will take these, because you don't say yes to everyone, right? And it's got to be a good fit for both sides. So you're like, okay, yeah, this is good, but man, this is going to be rough. What do we got to work with here? And I know I'm a challenge. So think about that. And I'm going to just kind of talk a little bit, because when I met Erica, I was looking for a consultant, right? And so, teaching at the junior college level, I taught business courses. So I've taught negotiations, I've taught small business planning. And so I have some concepts. And so it's really interesting to, when you're going to go ahead and start your own organization, that you have to do all of this practical theoretical work, and now it's got to be applied, right? So we had to look at SWOT analysis. You had to look at your strengths and weaknesses and stack that against your opportunities and your threats, right? So and see who else is doing what you want to do out there, right? Are you just duplicating effort? Do you have nuance? Are you filling a niche? So there's all these things you have to look at. Is it going to be sustainable? So lots of people have all these really great ideas. Stephanie says no comment. um, it's great. Everyone has all these great ideas. They want to change the world, but taking that from a concept in someone's mind, putting it on paper, and then making it real, and then not only making it real, but make it sustain, that's a whole nother thing. So, you know, um, I think that's really important to talk about. And what I always like to do is try to empower others to do it, right? I don't want to just keep the tools and keep the secret for myself and just say, well, if you come and do it with me, then, you'll be successful. It's like, no, if you've got an idea, go off and do your idea. And here are some fine folks that can help you with that, if you want to do that. So, we met back in 2018, and I was doing some research and trying to vet different consultants. And we had a conversation. As far as I remember, my memory isn't the greatest, so you can correct me if I say something wrong there. And you came on, and at the time you were the business alchemist, and shout out to B. It was you and B together, and we got started and put together a huge 5-year plan, right? Because again, I'm a very idea driven person. Trying to nail me down, which is probably part of one of my weaknesses, can be a challenge. And you help to really organize the thoughts and say, okay, this is what this should look like, and this is how we go forward. And then we were able to do our thing. And what's really phenomenal is you took a break for a little while, for a couple of years, and I don't know how we got back in touch with each other. You might have just sent out an email just saying, hey, just wanted to say everything is going good and whatnot. And it was like, oh, that's awesome, come on, let's go. And then back you came, and now it's Colleen, and you've already written in numerous grants for us. So I'll stop there. But yeah, just kind of reflect on how you believe we met, because it's probably a little bit different than how I remember it, and talk about the strengths and weaknesses that you saw either in the concept or in me from a leadership position, because I think people need to hear those things when they're thinking about, how do I start an organization, or how do I right the ship or tweak it?
Yeah. So that's a lot to unpack. So I'm going to do the best that I can to unpack everything.
And Colleen, if you want to jump in and just add, feedback in there, you can phone whatever you want.
Yeah,
you got it.
Feel free to jump in. I will start by saying that within our firm, and that's the reason why I wanted to work for myself, is that I only take on clients where I fully believe in their vision and their mission. And I feel very blessed that with my legal career, with my consulting career, I know I kind of have learned how to take big ideas and make them actionable, create strategies around them, just, where individuals can execute. And so when I met you, I think once you're in Marwan's circle, you kind of can't escape, because you're just so passionate, and, you do have big ideas, but you're so passionate about what you do. And so that is really what attracted me to Gather Together, Grow Together. At the time, you were still teaching, your professor at OC. You were just, I set up your organization. We filed your paperwork and all of that. And just seeing just your commitment and your passion.
Let me get in there real quick, Erica. See, you're jogging my memory, and I tell people, it's like, no, I was still at the college while this thing was being built. It's like I didn't take time off and say, okay, now I'm going to try to do this. Like, no, I was building this organization, while I was teaching, which was crazy. Which also let me know I need help, right? You can't do all things. Sorry, jump. Go ahead, back in there.
Yeah, no. So I saw that. I saw just this passionate person who was doing a lot of things and had these really big ideas. And I thought, let's just get you set up, right? Let's just get you set up. But could also see where the big vision sometimes needs to be like scaled down into actionable steps, especially for a team. So I see Rob as charismatic and passionate and of course at times, that's Marwan, right? So that's where I thought I kind of want to hang out with this organization a bit longer, because sometimes I just set up the organization and then I'm like, okay, good luck, gonna fit you well. But with you, it was kind of like, I feel like he has really big ideas, but maybe help and execution can help. And like I challenge you all the time. Like I push back. I definitely am like, are you sure? And I thought that maybe is where I could support you. And I feel like we also have enough trust where if I'm pushing back or if I'm challenging you on certain things, it's coming from a place that I want this organization to succeed. And so that is where I think we've had a really good relationship because really it is about that, right? So I think you have such a big vision, talking about challenges, how to kind of communicate that vision, right? How to like craft your messaging when you're applying for grants, when you're talking about what you do. I mean, that's what we work on. I mean, Colleen, I think you can speak to this. It's kind of how to make the vision just kind of translate it in a way that connects with, others, because I think you see it in your head and we kind of have to get into your head to understand what you want to do. And we have a lot of fun with that, Colleen, don't we? Like you and I talk about this a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's like, it's one of the biggest challenges and the coolest parts of what we get to do, especially working with, we work with a lot of nonprofits in their early stages or as they're growing. And so they are big ideas and we have these visions. And so how do we take those and get them on paper and make them something actionable? And so that usually means, breaking things into small pieces and, where are we starting and what does this look like now? And what does it look like next year? And what does it look like in 3 years? And, putting numbers to that. How many people? How much money do you need? What staff do you need? So, really trying to take the ideas and make them, realities, which, just takes some nitty gritty logistics, putting pen to paper. And so, we love to challenge clients to do that, to get into the weeds and really build it out in a way that they can make their vision happen. So I say it's a challenge, but really it's the fun part of what we get to do is bringing those visions to reality, which, takes work.
So how do you, what is a way that you work with, I don't want to say unrealistic, but, you have, creatives that, want to do all this thing. They see things from a 30,000 foot level and they just want to kind of get to doing the work, but there's so many steps that are in between. What are some things or tools that you use to help to pull us back and ground us and get us to kind of look at the details as we try to vision out our, our bigger goals?
That is such a great question because we don't want to be dream killers, especially when it comes to nonprofits. So, we're not here to kill dreams. We're just here to, like I said, kind of get in our clients' heads and then help them execute in a realistic way. So one of the ways is just experience, right? I mean, Colleen has so much experience working with nonprofits. So she's seen kind of what works and doesn't work. Being in nonprofits and seeing that, me as a consultant as well. And then I also think the collaborative approach, right? So I might be when I'm like today, Colleen, it happened. I was like, oh yeah, sure, we can do this. And she was like, are you sure? And so kind of just that dialogue and being able to respectfully, but also like in a really like constructive way, say, okay, I'm thinking this, you're thinking this, how can we get to a place that kind of works, where we can go to our client and legitimately say, I think you should do this, definitely helps. And so I and another reason I keep talking about the firm, but it's another reason why I wanted to work, create my own firm, because we do want to respect our clients, dreams and big goals and big vision. And so I think the first thing that our clients have to do is trust us. They have to trust us that, you are giving us this vision. We are going to be caretakers of that, but we're also going to give you realistic feedback. And that I have to do because that's my job. You've hired me for that. And so if we have that trust, then trust that, we'll start here, we might then be here, and then we kind of come to some kind of good place where we can say, okay, I think you should do this. And I think with Marwan, I think you are like our poster child for
for issues.
Yeah.
for the pinky in the brain. I want to take over the world. Well, and I would assume that could be very challenging when you have someone that has all these ideas, right? Um, and oftentimes they know what they want to do. I like to think that I listen well. I don't know if my team would say that, but um, many times people that are in leadership positions, right? They've got their vision, and this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And from an outside view, you may be saying, you could try that, but this might be a better way, or and so that could be really difficult to make that work and have that create that relationship and build that trust, right? Because sometimes we have to detour from the direction that we want to go in to get to the destination that we want to go. Um, and that's something where I for me, speaking for me, I have my ideas and I have my way and I want it yesterday. But I know that's not realistic. I'll try to push as far as I can, but I also know that I have to listen to people that are experts in the field and take that counsel on and like you said, have that trust, right? That's why it was so easy when you reached back out. I was like, oh yeah, come on, let's go. What can we do? It's on. So super
And I,
excited.
and I would say, I mean, we love Robert and Stephanie, like your team, because that also helps, so, it's not just you and like a lonely cave trying to do this. Like, we also know that, okay, we can work with Stephanie on certain things, Robert with certain things. And so I think we also do try to look at the team landscape and the team dynamics. And that also helps, right? So it's not just me saying, hey, maybe it's like, hey, Stephanie, what do you think? Robert, what do you think? Like, which it's a really great asset when working with clients.
Well, I'm gonna give Rob and Stephanie the horn because they are absolutely fantastic, right? They've been with me from the start, and so that's a big deal. He says we really like you too. So that is a true story, right? You do need to have a good team around you. You need to have other people that buy into your mission, your vision, and your values. And as you were saying before, right, you're looking at an organization. You don't take everyone on, so you have to somewhat believe in the mission and the values of who you're helping to try to be successful. Also, right? Uh, Stephanie says it's better than the cane. Go and get the cane. So that's what happens when people don't do the right thing. I get the cane. So, I procedures all the time. So I've got this cane that I'm walking around with. So now it's just kind of a thing on the podcast. So, if you don't do right, I get the cane. So yeah, we don't want to do that. But if you are, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur to get started with their dream and start to kind of put the pieces together? What are, like, if I were to type that in the chat, like maybe the top 1 to 5 things that they should consider?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was just talking to a colleague about this a couple of days ago. So here's the thing. I mean, I think if you look, there's a lot of movement, especially with COVID, about people like, start your own business, do this, or you can just launch out on your own. And I'm a proponent of go to your skills and your strengths, so, what I do as a nonprofit consultant, what I've managed to build, is really born out of my skills and my training and what I've really committed a lot of time to learning, right? So, and I think that's key, because I think there is a lot of just do whatever. Like, I can be a horse trainer, I could be and I think that's quite dangerous when it comes to sustainability as an entrepreneur. If you're going to have a business, you want it to be profitable, right? So, kind of think about, what do I do well? And it doesn't have to be even school training. Like, what do you do well? So what I do well is I was a good lawyer, but I'm also a good listener. That I didn't have to become a lawyer to be a good listener. I love connecting with people. I love creating space for people. That's why I also call myself a coach. Like that, those are innate skills that I think I have. So the first thing I think to do is just kind of take an inventory of, like, what do I do really well? And how can I use that to serve the world, right? And that can take some time, but really spending a lot of time with that is key. And then also authenticity. And I think that's also important because there are a lot of nonprofit consultants out there. There are a lot of people that do work that I do or similar work that I do. And at the beginning, you can kind of feel like you have to copy them to do well. And I definitely had my days of that in the beginning when I was just starting out. But I realized I can only attract clients. I can only do what I do well by just being me, you know? And of course, taking constructive criticism and tweaking and refining as you go along. But, you know, there are just innate things about me that make me me that allows me to do what I do, and it allows me to attract clients like you know. So
I mean, what are one or two things that you would say that, you know, someone starting off, you know, wanting to do this thing? What are some attributes or things they need to consider?
attributes. So you have to learn how to not be an employee, you know. So I had to learn how to like and call
I
me
haven't learned that yet.
you know, like when you don't have that check coming every other week, you kind of like something has to change in your brain, you know, to be like, okay, how am I gonna make this work, right? Because it's a business, right? So it's something learned, but something that I think is super, super, super important. And just starting, kind of, just start. You know, even if it's for free, like just get started. Colleen,
You know, I tell people that I build, you know, I fly the plane while I'm building it. So even when we're thinking about new programming and things that we do, I'm always doing that. The podcast was started with my iPhone, right? And then it's been built into this. But Colleen, answer those questions if you would. You know, what are some of the things that people should be thinking, you know, at the beginning there?
Yeah, I think Erica's list is great. I think all I can think to add to that is, and it kind of goes back to this like kind of mission, purpose, passion, but you know, maybe actually scope is the better word for it. Sort of knowing what it is that you want to do, whether that's, you know, I think if you're a nonprofit, knowing like what is the purpose of this nonprofit you're looking to start. If you're looking to start a business, like what is the purpose of this business? What do we do? What do we not do? I think, you know, Erica and I work a lot with clients, regardless of what stage they're at in their nonprofit, of like, what's your mission? What's your vision? What's your values? We start with that almost always because really everything has to stem back to that. So I think being really clear in why you do what you do, what do you do and what do you not do, and being able to kind of set those boundaries for yourself. I think I love that, you know, we're primarily working with clients on fundraising and strategic planning stuff. That's not to say there's not other projects we'd entertain, but you know, we don't pretend that we can do everything. You know, we bring in other people to help us if they need accounting help, or, you know, Erica has a legal background, but we don't offer legal services. We bring in current practicing lawyers to help with that if that's something we need, because, you know, we sort of have laid out like this is the scope of where we can help, and then beyond that, here's where we call on others. And so I think being able to set those boundaries and then, you know, being able to focus and really perfect and excel and do well at the things that you do so that you're not spread too thin trying to do a little bit of everything. You know, I think especially in the nonprofit world, it's so easy to get pulled into so many different directions, you know, no matter how you're involved with an organization. So I think, you know, in thinking about getting started, that's the first thing that comes to mind for me is that focus, that, you know, scope and vision and mission. You know, when I think about attributes, yeah, I think, you know, being flexible in some ways, if you're looking to start your own business endeavor, you know, firm, you know, right, you lose that predictability of the 9-to-5 schedule and the biweekly paycheck. You know, it's certainly a bit more of a hustle. You know, your work is going to depend on, you know, a whole new variety of things that your previous desk job did not rely on. And so I think having a personality that is okay with kind of the ebbs and flows of that, of, you know, there might be months that are quiet and then there might be months that are insanely busy, and being able to kind of flow with that. And then being able to manage that. So, you know, you don't have a manager telling you like, here's what you need to do this week. You know, you're on top of you have to be on top of your own schedule of, here's what I've got to get done this week. And nobody's there to, reprimand you if you don't do it. It's your, your work. And so I think really being ready to kind of take ownership over your work and manage your day. And so definitely, needs to be someone who's a doer and a, go-getter who doesn't need someone else to motivate them, have to really be willing to kind of take that charge yourself. Because there's not, I feel very fortunate because I do have a team that is motivational, but I think we also do a really good job of not micromanaging each other. So, we make sure we're working together, but, I'm rarely, getting commands from someone to do something or, deadlines. So we really do need to, stay on top of our own work.
Well, and I'm typing these things in the chat as you are, giving out these gems, right? And I know that mission creep is a big deal, and I suffer from it. I think all organizations do. And our volunteers that come in, they're like, they're passionate, they want to help, right? So they come and they join, and then they're like, well, we could do this, or we should do that, or we should do all these things. And it's like, it would be great if we could, but we don't have the bandwidth to do all these different things, right? Like, it's like, let's do a clothing closet, or let's go and do this. And all of those things are great, but this is what we do. We have to really try to perfect what it is we do, while simultaneously maybe exploring some other channels of possible revenue or ways that you can serve so that we're sustainable, right? So it's gotta, we have lost leaders and things where we're going to operate at a deficit until we determine this is something viable that we can build into our program, or we need to just do something else. But mission creep is one that I know that we fight with all the time. I fight with it because I want to change the world, right? And then the team wants to change the world, but then they have all their different ideas on how to change the world, right? I mean, we're talking about getting into sustainability and growing food and education and community building and just doing a lot of different things that we didn't start off doing, right? It was like very simple. Transportation, we're going to provide transportation, we're going to feed people, we're going to teach them some computer skills, and we're going to give them some job training. It's like boom, 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 boom. That's it. And I got drilled into my head by Erica. Like, you got to kiss it. Keep it simple, stupid, and there's a graphic in our business plan that has those 4 things, right? A little infographic that says, this is what we do. And that's what it is. And now over almost 4 years, right? Will be 4 in February, right? We've expanded transportation, right? We've widened how we do that, who we serve, how much we can serve. We've added, vehicles to our fleet. I think when we started, we didn't have any vehicles at all, right? And now we have 4 vehicles and everything else, so which is awesome. So you've got to be measured in your growth, and then check that mission creep, and then be able to articulate that, like you said, being a good listener, articulating that with your team. I think if you're transparent and you kind of share with folks, you're not always just a no, 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 right? Some people will say, Shaylin, shout out to Shaylin, she said, you always say no. It's like, yeah, I know I always say no, but I actually do go back and think about it, and I do try to find ways to say yes. If there's a way that I can say yes, I'm going to try to say yes, but I've got to think about that. And then the other one is, and this is what I've heard from lots of students, and I hear it even now is I'm talking with people, I want to be my own boss. I don't want to work for anyone. And it's like, yeah, well, that sounds good. But once you start your own business, all of your customers, all of your clients, your vendors, all of these folks become your boss now. And, when you stop, the business stops. So, you're not doing 40 hours a week anymore. You're doing the 16 hours. You're missing out on the party. You're missing out on vacations and, maybe your kids' experiences and things of that nature while you're trying to build this thing that's sustainable and leave a legacy and whatnot. Can I ask, both of you to kind of weigh in on longevity, sustainability? What are some tips that people can employ or think about when they're, you don't create a business. I mean, you should have an exit plan, but you don't create a business with the thought, oh yeah, this is going to be here for 3 years and we're done, right? So what should they be thinking about? What are some of those knowledge, skills, or abilities, maybe those attributes that you see in folks that, it's like, yeah, they're probably going to kind of stand the test of time, or they won't fizzle out in a year or two?
Yeah, and I actually want to weave that into, I see Sal de Rosala, I think is the name. He's asked
What's going to
what
keep you coming back to the other day?
yeah, which I think kind of ties into your question. So I really think it's having a solid foundation, right? And that's me kind of putting on my lawyer consultant hat. So I think having systems in place, trying to keep things organized, having a team, that you can count on, just really having that solid infrastructure is what helps an organization stand the test of time. So when I started with you in 2018, setting up your nonprofit, that's why we went through the business planning phase. And it looks very different. I mean, if you think about it, what you were thinking about doing, the organization looks very different, but you went through that process of, okay, what do we want to do? What do we want to be? What are our goals? What are our, what's our vision? And so I think that's super important, to really build those kind of cornerstones that can sustain an organization in the long term. And weaving in your other comment about mission drift, it also is what helps with mission drift, because I think you don't just do that at the beginning and then just kind of put it in the vault somewhere. Every year or every quarter or periodically, it's about dusting that off, looking at, what the goals were, what were the objectives, and really coming up with, okay, based on where we are now, with respect to funding, assets, human resources, all of that. I mean, I think it really is about taking an analytical approach to say, how do we keep moving forward? So it's why I suggest that my clients once a year go through a strategic planning process, to really think about that. And that's how you create longevity over the long term. I don't know, Colleen, if you have any.
Yeah, I think a lot of that really rings true. I think that your point about people and systems and the strategic plan, of course, are super important. I think having a strong network, both individually and as an organization. So having board members, having partner organizations or companies, depending if you're a not or for profit, that you can look to as sort of peers in your industry or partners, depending on your type of work. If you're a nonprofit, having good relationships with your donors, whether that's a foundation or individuals, hopefully it's a bit of both, and maybe some corporate sponsors as well. But having good, lasting relationships with your supporters, because those are the kinds of things that will, having all those people in your circle will help you make sure, your board is going to help you make sure that you're not drifting too far from your mission, hopefully, and your supporters are going to buy into that mission and hopefully continue supporting that mission, and your staff are going to be the ones, kind of executing on that. And so, investing in the right people and investing in the right partnerships and relationships, relationship building takes time. Eric and I were just on the phone with a potential client who, wants to start a nonprofit, and he's like, how do I raise money, right now? And we're like, it doesn't come right now unless you have people willing to write checks right now. You've got to build those relationships over time. And so I think, and that's true in all areas, with your board, with your staff, with your supporters. And so I think organizations that, that sustain are organizations that have those good relationships and where those peers are, where the people are on the same page. I did a bit of work for an organization right before I started working with Erica, where the board and the executive director had like really different ideas and visions about what the organization was doing, and like down to like how they operated. Like, it was so confusing, and they hadn't done a strategic planning process in a while, and it was hard to see how they were going to be able to move forward without getting everybody on the same page. And so, I think communication both internally and externally is super important as well for a longevity standpoint.
Yeah.
And we are set to do our strategic planning here at the end of the year, correct? And you've given me quite a bit of homework, and
We have you down.
I can be a little difficult to nail down, because I'm doing so many things. I know my whole life is they should put a poster of mission creep and just kind of put that above my head. So, it's like, oh, I wanted to, keep in touch with folks and give them a voice. And because of COVID, everything shut down. So it's like, well, maybe well, we tried to do public access TV, right? So we tried to we actually paid money, and then after that, everything shut down. And so it was like, all right, well, we'll do this little show, and it will kind of tie everyone together. And so I started this thing in February, and now this thing is like full blown. And we're doing an award ceremony for to honor Black veterans tomorrow, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. So, um, opportunity can also be there, and for me, it's definitely about filling a void and serving people. And so I think this serves people, and so it's something that can be done. Now, at the same time, I'm a little crazy to think that I can try to do this, that, and the other. And so it's good to have folks that can tell you that you need to kind of rein it in or check yourself or just look in the mirror and just make sure, all right, this is what we see. Do you see this also, and do you have a plan for that? Because you guys want what is best for us, and you want us to continue to thrive and not get so worn thin that everything fails, right? So someone had given an analogy. One of my professors said, you can juggle all these balls, but you'll notice that you're getting closer and closer to the ground. You haven't dropped the ball yet. You're still juggling, but it's getting closer. And then once one falls, then everything starts to fall. So you want to keep your balls juggling nice and high. And so, just keeping your eye on that. So if you start to feel that you're losing it a little bit, then rein it in. And having a good team is a good way to do that. What I wanted to do is I definitely wanted to show off your website. So
Oh
let me go
gosh.
pull that up. Did you say, oh gosh? Do
Yeah,
you
I
not?
did.
It's like, panic.
It's almost like letting someone into your home and hoping that, it's all clean and nice and, you don't have like your dirty underwear on the floor. So
I'm gonna admit that was not the response I thought I was going to like, oh gosh. But this is the website. It's important that people know how to contact you, right? If they want to
it is true, yes.
reach out and take advantage of your services. Let me see if I can just zoom in a little bit on this here. And so it is literally your name. So it's super easy to remember. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat if you want to check out Erica Noel Duncan's .com is the name of the business. So super easy, right? And if you're bad with names, well, then you've killed two birds with one stone. So, I mean, there you go. How easy is that? But taking a thoughtful approach to your nonprofit success. And just a little intro here. My name is Erica, and I provide fundraising, strategic planning, which again, I cannot overstate this enough. Strategic planning is important. And continuing that planning. You don't make a plan and then that's it. We're good. You have to continue that planning. Make sure that you're going in the right direction. Startup and instructional design services to nonprofits. There's a lot of us that are very creative. We know what we want to do to impact the world in a positive way. We just don't know how to get started. As I said, filing that paperwork for a 501c3, working with the Secretary of State, and doing all the different things that you have to do, right? There's a lot that goes into it. And it can feel really overwhelming. And there's a lot of good folks that have great ideas that would be great businesses or nonprofits that don't get past this piece because it seems too scary. But there's a team here that can help you with that. Instructional design services to nonprofits, and then taking a thoughtful and an analytical approach to your nonprofit's vision and missions. I can provide customized support to ensure your nonprofit success. And I don't know if it was Colleen or Erica that said this earlier, but it was Colleen, and it was about the gentleman who needed money now. Like, I need money right now. You might have a great idea. It may not be right now. You may need to plan, measure twice, cut once. That's what we say in construction. Go ahead and get your ducks in a row so that when you do launch, it's successful. I have the emotional intelligence to understand that businesses fail, but if G2 failed in the first year or two, it would still be devastating. It would hurt, right? I mean, but businesses risk, and there's no guarantee, right? You're not entitled to be a successful business person, no matter how good the idea is and how much you sacrifice and give of yourself, right? That's not a privilege or a right that you have. So understanding that, it's just important to kind of keep that perspective. But I wanted to sustain, so I'm going to take advantage of, Erica and Colleen and say, please help me to make this vision a reality and then keep this thing going so that we can continue to serve the population. Do you want to reflect on my thoughts there?
Marwan, that did just spark for me, to your earlier question about, what sustains a nonprofit. I think you might have just hit on one of the most important parts, which is that, you need to take the time to lay that foundation. So the nonprofits that succeed are the ones that are okay with the fact that, I could go ask for money today, but I might benefit from taking 6 months to like really lay out clearly what's my mission, my vision, what is my programming, how does that all tie together? How does that fit into a strategic plan? So that when they do go make the ask, they're even better positioned to do so. And so I think, taking the time to lay that groundwork, as frustrating as it might feel initially, it is hugely important to the long-term success of an organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it is so important. And I think also asking for help, because a lot of individuals want to start nonprofits. And I think there are two things. Number one, asking for help to just make sure that everything is set up properly. We had a client earlier this year where for 3 years they were out of compliance because they weren't filing necessary returns and, kind of weren't filing their paperwork. So that's where hiring someone to really kind of walk you through the logistical steps. So it's really important. And then also treating a nonprofit like any other business, right? Like the way that you're raising money is different than a for-profit, because you're raising money from like donations and grants, but thinking about it in a sustainable way. So you have this way that you want to make the world a better place, but also have to have really the strategic thinking behind, okay, how are we going to make this sustainable? Is really so super important,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me go back to the website. I just want to make sure that I kind of cover a lot of the basics here. And again, the website is right below ericanoelduncan.com. Any of you that are listening and cannot see, that is EricanoeLDuncan.com. Erica Noel with 2 L's, Duncan.com. Okay. There's a few links here. So are you struggling to successfully raise funds and meet your nonprofit needs? Do you have a number of ideas you need a methodological oh boy, methodological
Methodical.
methodical, thank you. Methodical approach to implement your plans most effectively. Do you want to launch a new nonprofit and don't know where to start? Man, these are things I didn't even read this, and it's like, man, I'm just saying the things, right? Because this is what you help me with. And do you have e-learning needs for the individuals you serve, or for your team? And so they can help. Click here to schedule a complimentary consult with Erica. Oh, snap. Now that's awesome. And then here are some organizations that you've worked with.
Yeah, we need to add your logo actually to this.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd appreciate that. That would be really cool. And there's more information here, right? So definitely schedule a consultation with Erica. There's a bunch of free resources here. I could tell you that one of the really good things that they do that helps us is they'll give us some homework to do, and usually it's in the form of forms and things to kind of guide us through, getting the information that they need to help us, right? To help them to help us. And so it's really important to do that. I know we're running up on an hour and it's going on 10 p.m. But what are some things that you wanted to leave folks with? We talked quite a bit about getting started and some of those attributes and what you need. But what did we leave out? What are we missing here?
That's a good question. I think just the importance of getting started. So I know there are a lot of people that kind of are on the fence. They're like, oh, I really want to do this, be it starting a business or starting a nonprofit. Like, maybe or one day. And I do think just the importance of getting started and learning how to trust in self is really important. And then asking for help. So, if anyone watching this, they now have me, they now have Colleen, you now know where we are. So even just saying, hey, like, I'm thinking about doing this, where do I start? Knowing that there really is help and tools and resources out there. And hopefully Colleen can attest to this, where I just believe in like just sharing everything, because, I've had to learn my way into this. Marwan, like I had to take 2 years off because I had a baby, and that was, that happened, but then I had to get back into the game. So I just learned so much. And I feel like anyone who has it on their heart and in their soul to start something, that whatever it is deserves a chance to be nurtured, and know that there are people out here that are willing to help. And so I'm hoping that anyone listening can count me as one of those people who's willing to help.
Colleen?
Yeah, and I guess what I'll add, and so I guess sort of on the flip side of that, and this is fitting coming from the one who has not actually formally started her own business by any stretch of the imagination. But I think there's also so many ways to do this important work without starting your own thing necessarily. So if either you don't feel like maybe I have the right attributes to start my own thing, but I do really feel called to, work for this mission or to promote this, cause, there are so many organizations doing great work. And so I think there are, ways to get involved, and so often organizations need staff, they need volunteers. So, I think also really looking around at who's already working in that space, and figuring out how you fit into that. So whether that is starting your own nonprofit that hopefully complements what they're doing, not competing for resource and for funding, or you might feel like you're not the right person to start an organization, in which case there are ways, to help the organizations that are already doing that work. And so, I think just really learning the landscape, whether you're starting your own thing or not, looking at what else is out there. And the nonprofit space is increasingly competitive for resources. And so, making sure if you are going to start your own thing, that there is a need for what you're doing, and that you're not reinventing a wheel that somebody's already, kind of excelled at in a similar space. And so, like all things, doing good research first.
And just listening to you both, it's so great, right? And that's the experience I have when I'm in my meetings with you, is I will get a diversity of thought, right? It's like, hey, you know what? These are some things that you can do, and hey, you know what? You don't necessarily have to start something. You can join something that is already doing the things that you want to do. And so, being able to, I'm not in an echo chamber when I'm in a conversation with the two of you, which is really powerful and helpful for me, because I'm an idea person. So I will latch on to a lot of different things. And then that just gives me more information to make an informed decision and help me craft which way I'm going to go, or reinforce the direction that I want to go in. Right. So I kind of take that in and say, okay, I'm hearing that, the good and the bad, and okay, here's this perspective. Yep, I can't take all that, and I'm still going in the right direction. Or you know what, I need to pull back, which I have done on some things, and said, all right, I'll be patient. We'll wait. We'll do it this way. And again, that's the trust, right? Because ultimately,
Yeah.
you want me to be successful. Um, and so you also have to share enough of who you are and what you're doing and how you do it, so that they can actually give you valuable information, right? Because you're not
Yeah.
boots on the ground, but you still have a 30,000-foot view of it, which is really important.
And sometimes, like, we'll give you advice. You're like, yeah, okay, thanks, but I'm still gonna do my thing. And I think, we're like, okay, I think.
I haven't done that, have I?
Okay, Stephanie, you can weigh in here now. But I think, that's key. We're just trying to give good information, and even it's why, because I'm also like the leader of my firm. You're the leader, and what I love too is like Colleen and I. Sometimes we won't agree, and she'll challenge me, and I'll challenge her, and I think that's what I love. Like kind of having that open. We just want to get to the best results. Kind of that attitude. I think I find is super helpful. Being okay with being challenged, being okay with like getting diversity of thought. I think just if you can kind of at the end of the day keep the end goal in mind and the the higher vision and purpose in mind, You know, maybe because I'm a lawyer and I'm kind of used to that, I just think that's great. Like, I love diversity of thought. You know, I think it's a great place to be. You know, and I'm glad you're open to that.
I think what you're saying too is, you know, to be a good leader, you need to be able to follow also, right? So I need to be able to take counsel from consultants. I need to be able to take counsel from, you know, Rob and Stephanie and the rest of the board. I need to be able to take counsel from the volunteers or people that we pay. You know, that's important. If it's just, you know, it's my way or the highway and I'm not going to listen to anything, I think that is, you know, technically a recipe for disaster, right?
Yeah.
Well, as we end this interview, I hope that you will come on again in the future. But we're going into the, you know, we're in the fourth quarter now. The year's about to end. We've got COVID. We've got all these different things. We're going to turn 4 in February. Just either in general or even specific to G2, because we're getting ready to go through our strategic planning. What advice would you have for an organization, even if it's ours, as we transition into 2022, kind of looking at the landscape of that SWOT analysis, right?
Yeah.
What's kind of your advice?
So I think, okay, so in terms of fundraising and development, we do a lot of F&D work with our clients. Giving Tuesday, which is on the 25th, I think, this year, is, I think, crucial. And end of year campaigns, right? So kind of tightening up, just thinking about who you can reach out to, what your messaging is going to be, you know, the programs you want to support, services, even general operations. I think this is a really good time to execute like an F&D strategy, even if you're making $2,000. Like, I think it's just so key. So Giving Tuesday. And then, like you said, the strategic planning for next year. So I know that we're about to enter into a time where it's kind of like holiday season. People are really busy and all of that. But I do think it is a really good time to begin thinking about for next year. What do we want to do? Where do we want to focus? What are our funding needs? What's our budget? Budgeting is super important. How much you need to make next year. This is really that crucial time. And it is when, you know, clients tend to come and say, hey, like we need to get this done because we want to really start off the next year strong. So I would say those two things. Giving Tuesday, end of year campaigning for your fundraising, and then also strategic planning for next year.
Anything you want to add to that, Colleen?
No, only to say that if you don't have a strategic plan, that's okay. And you can even just start by looking at, you know, what did we do last year? And even maybe you just had a couple goals. Did we meet those? Did we not? And if you didn't even have goals, then maybe just start with that for this year. So, okay, what did we do last year? And are we happy with that? And then what goals can we set for this year? And, you know, start with some small, you know, hopefully achievable things. And, you know, obviously the goal is to have a strategic plan, but if you don't have that yet, it's okay. And, you know, find something you could measure to see, you know, how are we doing, you know, meeting our mission, meeting the goals that the organization sets out to do.
Well, I mean, there you have it. You know, you can see one of the major ways that G2 not only was started, but continues to thrive. And of course, you know, we got funding for the next 3 years. So, you know, unless we are no longer here on this planet, we'll be here till what? 2022, 23, the end of 24. We'll be here till 2025 for sure, right? I want to thank you, Erica, specifically, and you too, Colleen, for all your help in getting us to the point of being able to launch an idea, right? Because that's really what that is, right? It's a concept, it's an idea, and it's something that wasn't being done, offering transportation. A lot of people feed folks that are food insecure, but we did it in a different way. We do it in a different way. And he really put us in a position to thrive and grow and sustain while we, you know, expand and contract, you know, with COVID. And so we've never been in a situation where it's like, oh, we've got to close these doors. We can't pay our rent. We did not receive a PPP loan, right? Which is awesome. You know, that we were actually healthy enough that we didn't need to rely on that. So that's a blessing. And I think that is a testament to ericanoelduncan.com. Please go ahead and sign up for a free consultation, whether you're thinking about starting it, or whether you want to check and see if you're on the right path, or you want to change your path, or just have a conversation and just chat it up. I think it's a good idea. You too can be the executive director or a founder of an organization. You probably have these really great ideas in your head, and society needs you for sure. So from Spain and New Jersey, I am Marwan Cameron. That is Colleen and Erica. This is the Conduit. We will be back tonight for another show. All right, until then. All right, bye-bye.